So our next performer is, he's another Mott's Story Slam winner. He is the host of one of my favorite shows to perform at, Big Irv's Storytelling Roadshow. Ladies and gentlemen, my friend Adam Selbst.
So, the first time I was attacked by an animal, I was too young to really form a memory of it, so I'm forced to go on what people who were there said happened. Apparently, I was learning how to crawl, and I blundered into our family house cat, who then immediately opened up my face so badly that I still retain a scar to this day, a very faint scar. I don't want to brag here, but I've been attacked by kind of a lot of animals. And I come from a family that loves animals. I love animals too. The difference though is that my love for animals is a little bit less Dr. Dolittle and like maybe a little bit more like Lenny from Of Mice and Men. Like, it's an enthusiastic love that frequently makes animals feel the need to defend themselves. Which is why, out of all of the animals that I've loved, 100% of them have attacked me at one point or another. Now, I think a lot of families, upon having their infant son, their firstborn infant son, torn apart by a house cat, they would have, at that point, abandoned the cat. But that's not how my family worked. What my mother said was, and I quote, she said, well, you know what, Adam probably learned his lesson, which is true. I never went near that cat again. But also, she said, also, it wouldn't be fair. The cat was here first. And this is a refrain that I've heard then throughout my life. My parents are longtime New Yorkers. They're New York City school teachers. So when they decided to retire, they wanted to move down to North Carolina, and I applauded this decision. I was very excited about it until about a week after they actually moved down, which is when my mother called me up very excited, and she said, you will not believe this, but the laws here allow me to go and buy and own a tiger. And I knew that it had been my mother's dream for her entire life to own a tiger. She would sometimes talk about it after a few glasses of wine, like how great it would be, and she'd get a young tiger so the tiger would love her, it would be fine. And you can't do that on Long Island. There's a story of my mother, long before I was born, walking into a tiger cage at the circus, and after they pulled her out, the only explanation she had to offer was, it's fine, I could tell that that tiger was nice. And to this day, I believe her. And my mother sort of placated herself through the years by working at the Guide Dog Foundation and by adopting every stray animal that happened to like come near our house. But I knew what she really wanted was a tiger of her own. They ended up not getting their own tiger. The reason, she said, was that the tiger might not get along with Pierre and Smokey, the cats they already had. And to be fair, those cats were there first, and she thought that maybe it wouldn't be a good idea. So what she would do instead is she went to go work for the local tiger rescue organization. What is a local tiger rescue organization, you might ask? Great, I'm gonna fill you in here. So you see, in North Carolina, the laws are so lax that you are allowed to go and buy a tiger. Where do you get one? The internet. Just so you know. Some people in North Carolina are so incredibly dumb that they think that just because you're allowed to buy a tiger that it's a good idea. And these stupid motherfuckers will go on the internet and buy a tiger. Here's two things you might not know about tigers. One is that they're very expensive to own. They eat an incredible amount of meat every week. Two, they're actually pretty dangerous. So the third thing you might not know about tigers is also when you decide you're sick of having a tiger, they're very difficult to get rid of. So let's say you live in North Carolina, you've got a tiger you don't know what to do with. It just ate, your chihuahua or your kid or whatever. And you're like, why have to get rid of this? What do you do? I'll tell you, in North Carolina, they drive out to the interstate and they just dump it off by the side of the road as though you had like an old Maytag washing machine that you didn't want to pay to have hauled. They leave it out. This practice has actually led to a couple of problems inside of North Carolina for the regular residents. So much so that there exists a special organization that drives around picking up tigers, bringing them back to a place where they have enclosures for tigers to live, and they take care of them for the rest of their natural lives, offering them food and health care. They are truly doing God's work. The name of this organization, by the way, is Carolina Tiger Rescue. Please don't hesitate to go online and give them money. They're a wonderful organization, and as my mother worked there for years, I truly fell in love with this place. I had a favorite tiger. His name was Jelly Bean. And he was named that because they got him as a tiny, tiny tiger, and his little toes looked like tiny jelly beans. Jelly Bean grew into a 650-pound white tiger. I don't know if you know a lot about white tigers. Do you know how often it is that white tigers exist in nature? It is once. One time it's happened. And all white tigers are descended from that one tiger, and they create them by breeding them all together, this one line. So they're the most incredibly inbred animal on the face of the earth, and so they have all kinds of problems. So for every white tiger that you see who looks normal, there's like 50 that had to be destroyed. Jelly Bean did not have a lot of psychological problems or anything like that. A lot of these tigers do, but Jelly Bean had a small patch of red. And for that reason, he was discarded as not useful to work in a circus, thank God. So I would go down and visit Jelly Bean all the time. And this one occasion, about 10 years ago, I really wanted to take some pictures of Jelly Bean, and I loved Jelly Bean, and Jelly Bean loved me. There was only one problem, which was that Jelly Bean shared his enclosure with his other tiger, Tex. And Tex and I did not get along. In tiger parlance, Tex is what we would call an asshole. But I really wanted to see Jelly Bean and get some good pictures. So I went down to their enclosure, and Jelly Bean sees me, and he comes running up, and he starts chuffling, which is sort of like what tigers do. It's like purring. It's like when they're happy or excited to see you, they chuffle. So I stepped over the rope, that separates you from like the actual tiger enclosure. Because, my mom works there. It's fine. And I leaned against the fence to get some good pictures of Jelly Bean. Let me spend 1 second just explaining the way tiger enclosures work. Unfortunately, it's important, so just bear with me. It's basically just a chain link fence, but unlike a stiff chain link fence, these are really super floppy, and the reason they do that is because they don't have tops. So they're really tall so that the tigers can't jump over them, but they're super floppy, so if they try and climb over them, they get drooped down and just dump back on the ground. So I'm leaning hard against the fence, and it's drooping into the enclosure. And he's all excited to see me. He's rolling over. I'm getting all of these great pictures. And off in the distance, I see some movement. And I can see far off in the undergrowth, can barely see him, but I can see there's Tex there, slowly making his way towards me. And it becomes pretty clear he's stalking me. This fucking asshole. I can't believe it. So I turn to my father to say, hey, Dad, look at this. Tex is stalking me. This is the day that I found out two things about tigers. One about tigers in general, one about Tex specifically. Tex, it turns out, got his name because he was rescued from Texas. His previous owner made his living by keeping Tex chained to a tree by a short 5-foot rope. Tex is about 7 feet long. By a short 5-foot rope. And he made his living. People would come and take pictures of Tex, and they would walk up to where the rope ended and just snap pictures in his face all day. And this poor tiger was fed cans of dog food, unopened, that he would have to open with his own broken teeth. And the only thing that Tex hated more than cameras was photographers. And he hated them with a passion. The other thing that I didn't know about tigers in general is that they will generally never attack their prey if their prey is looking right at them. What they'll do, they're smart. They will wait until the person averts their gaze to say something like, hey, Dad, look at this. Tex is stalking me. And I have seen a lot of nature documentaries. Like I said, I grew up in an animal house. My family loved animals. I knew tigers are fast. David Attenborough taught me that when I was 7. I had no idea. By the time I turned around, Tex had closed the 50 yards and was already in the air. It's like being hit by an extremely soft locomotive. Here's the good news. The fence worked, but it's super floppy, so I was knocked back about 5 feet. And my family, the immediate concern came gathering around me. Oh my God, are you okay? And I was shocked. I felt like I had just been hit by lightning. And everyone was there helping me up and dusting me off. As Tex paced in the background, everybody except my mother, who looked at me and said with derision, "You know, that wouldn't have happened if you hadn't been acting like prey." And everyone burst out laughing. They loved it. My mother, my sister's kids, my girlfriend, everyone's cracking up. In fact, they loved it so much they called me Prey for the rest of the weekend. I forgot my glasses in a restaurant, and I went running back to get them, and my father said, "Stop, you're acting like Prey." And everyone laughed, which might have been a funny joke if the person you're making fun of had not been attacked by an actual tiger less than 24 hours beforehand in a state that is notorious for having tigers just roaming around. And I became angry, and finally, for the first time, I rounded on my mother. I said, no, fuck this. No, stop. It's not funny. Who is this guy, Tex? He's some dick you just met. What about me? I was here first for this. For once, you can't say anything. I was here first. And she looked at me like I was the dumbest child. I was 35. Looked at me like I was the dumbest person she had ever met. And she said, "Adam, you know what? These animals that I've taken care of for all of these years, they need me. They would die if I wasn't taking care of them. Do you understand that? You will probably be fine if you would just stop acting like prey." Thank you.
Adam Selbst.